Hi there, I'm Dr. LaQuita, and welcome to my YouTube channel where I talk about all things in between being and becoming a pharmacist. How you doing? You alright? Let me tell you about one of my clients, Dr. Patel. Dr. Patel has just failed the Naplex for the second time. And he came to me because he wasn't lacking intelligence. He wasn't even lazy. He was simply exhausted. Dr. Patel looked at me and he said, Dr. J, I don't know. I don't know where to start. I feel like I've tried and tried and everything, and I just don't have a roadmap. Does that sound familiar to you? Is that you? Because in my years of being a Naplex coach, that's really the reality that many pharmacists have. It's not about their ability. It's not about your ability to pass the exam. It's about your direction. Imagine trying to drive across the country with no GPS, no type of Google map or anything. You got gas, the car, the determination, right? But if you're guessing at every single turn, you'll waste time, energy, and even break down. And that's what happens. We don't have the direction of where to go, especially after those failed attempts. And with Dr. Patel and I, it was very it's the second attempt. He wants to go and get ready to test. So with that, he wanted a 2-month plan, and we devised a 2-month plan using the PharmD To RPh method because everyone is different. Everyone wants to study, take the exam quicker than others, and I understand that, and that's why I offer different things based on people's needs and what I can meet. That's why we always recommend people do a strategy call, because of that, so we can identify what's the need that's needed or where we are. And for the first time, Dr. Patel had the confidence that his study hours were actually moving him closer to passing. But the reality was, once we dived into it, it was just keeping him busy. Just keeping him just busy. So why is it that so many pharmacists don't know where to start, especially when they're studying? And here's what I see over and over again. I see a couple things. One, even brought up last week with my clients in the Naplex Play program, who simply stated that when they start studying in pharmacy school, it just says study everything. You had no direction of where to go. So because we lack direction of where to go, the first thing we do is study so much information. Not only do we have our textbooks to reference, you also have your study notes to reference, but you have PDFs you find, review books you find, YouTube videos, question banks. It's all the same thing as in the Naplex. It's the same thing the Naplex. The PDFs, the blog posts, the review books. So I wouldn't say, oh, this rebook is good. This book is good. Oh, I just focus on the question banks. all of that is too much information. It's like literally standing in the middle of a library and with the final exam tomorrow and saying, oh, okay, where do I start? Which shelf should I start with? So you keep jumping around and around, hoping that it will happen, right? Too much information. Some people have 2 different programs they're in. And if that's you, just pick one. I tell my clients all the time, just pick one. I have seen pharmacists pass with this prep book, that prep book, that prep book. They all pass the Naplex. There's no certain thing of this person is that better than that person, this person. I don't know. I might need to go record another video about that. Like, what is my honest opinion about different programs? But I try to speak on people because that's not me. That's not me in real life. I don't like to speak on people in situations. You know, that's just not me. But I get that question asked a lot, and I literally always say it's really based on your studying. How do you study? What do you really need? And I can tell you from experience, and I've seen them. Like, what do you like? Where are you in your, I'll say your knowledge base, and what do you, and then I can know that and tell you what do you need. But back to the subject, because the thing is, we're studying, it's too much information being thrown at us that we just keep getting it. It's not working for us. There's too much information. For example, right? Another pharmacist open. I'm gonna say this example, right? I'm just gonna give just an example. I ain't gonna say another pharmacist, a specific person. Let's just talk about the reality of it. You open your prep book. You get halfway through diabetes. You start feeling anxious. Then you switch to infectious diseases. He's like, oh, this is too much. Let me go to something. Let me go back to infectious disease videos because I had already started that. Then you get a handful. He's like, oh, let me go practice some questions. And you get a handful of random questions in test bank. By the end of the week, the end of the day, you touch everything and master nothing. And that's the thing. You're approaching your studying being a jack of all trades and a master of none. That lack of focus makes the material such a blur. Because we want to study too much information and have no direction of how to do it. Second, reason two. Reason two is another one for me. Reason two is because that's the fear-based studying. My clients and I have really talked about this last week because the fear-based studying is a trap. And especially I've learned after each Naplex attempt, the more mindset you're going to need. The more fearful you are, the more anxious you are, the more stagnant you are. And it's a lot of mindset we have to go over all the time. Because majority of the time, I see that pharmacists are studying out of fear. You're studying out of what chapter feels urgent. Maybe it's oncology today because it looks scary. Or biostatistics because you heard that it's heavily tested in a Facebook group. See, that's the problem. It's reactionary. There's no system. We're reacting to so many different things and it's fear-based. Because we don't have a system. Instead of building confidence, we end up reinforcing panic. Doing fear-based studying. Fear-based studying is also how it shows up is simply writing notes. I remember a couple years ago, and this is me starting out, right? A couple years ago, let's be transparent, right? A couple years ago, I remember having this client. That was Dr. Malone. Dr. Malone, she always said, every time I start writing, I write notes. I rewrite notes. I just keep rewriting my notes because it just helps me. And what I told her, I was like, why we keep writing notes? And I said, okay, then, but let me just look at your notes. And I was looking at her notes. I was like, okay. I said, the reason why you keep having a problem with writing these notes because you're not writing notes that you can study. She said, I said, you're not writing notes you can study. I looked at her notes. I was like, your notes are missing this. They're missing that. This is the gap. Because you're not writing notes you can study. You are regurgitating this prep book. But how are you gonna remember that? That's what a lot of pharmacists do. And then that rewriting, I said, how when we were in elementary school and we had spelling words every week. Those spelling words, the teacher told us to rewrite them like 10 times. It was like muscle memory of spelling, right? But honestly, it was muscle memory, but it was building memorization. Do we actually know how to spell the word sometimes? Probably not. It just we just our hand remember how we was writing it, and that's how we remember the word. But do we probably know how to spell it? Probably no. So it's like, oh no, it's like, oh, let me think about my hand movement. But that was muscle memory with the hand. We're talking about a disease state. You want muscle memory for every word in a disease state, explaining it? That's impossible, right? That is literally impossible. We can't do that. That doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense at all, right? You should. It shouldn't, right? That doesn't make any sense. And that's what fear does. We keep rewriting, and if this is you, I understand, because I was there. Until I had that reality, I had to ask that question to myself when I was going through passing the exam. But why I keep rewriting? But how am I going to teach this to a patient? I had to learn that. Because the thing was, the rewriting or the constant restart, there's no system. Instead of building confidence, we're basically we reinforcing fear, panic. And when your fear runs your study plan, you'll never feel ready. You will absolutely never feel ready. No matter how many hours you put in, no matter how many test banks you buy, you're going to never feel ready at all. So, we have to address this fear-based studying. Third thing is simply no structure. We don't have any structure when we study. Without structure, every single thing feels urgent. Everything. When everything feels urgent, nothing gets done with depth. Absolutely nothing gets done with depth. You skim over, you over highlight, you reread the same page every single time because you want to feel productive. And that's why so many pharmacists tell me, Dr. J, I study 8 hours a day. And I feel like I don't know anything. I feel like it's still a failed. It's not about the hours. It's about the direction. And this is the very reason why, I don't know, I think it's something that's in my eye. It's like, sidebar, like, I don't know, but okay. But It's not that, it's the direction of it all. This is why the Naplex playbook right there, that's why that was invented. Because it's a day by day study guide for pharmacists. It was that daily study guide that needed to scratch. So when you study, it tells you what to study, but it also has worksheets inside to tell you what to focus on. So you know, hey, when I'm studying this is because you need that direction. You need that guide. And if you're spending 8 hours driving in circles, you're still not close to getting to your destination, right? Because we keep operating without a GPS. That was Dr. Patel, operating without a GPS. The fourth reason here. And that's time pressure. And then there's the clock, right? We're taking an exam that is timed. We're studying for a certain period of time. And most pharmacists come to me 2 to 3 months before their exam. That's more enough. I would say, most pharmacists come to me within a week or two of their exam. That can be, for me, to pull a miracle. That's not a lot of time, because I haven't even identified what your strengths, weaknesses is, how you think. It's so much we have to go into to figure out what is going on. But with those 2 to 3 weeks, we only can master one thing versus the whole scope. And most pharmacists do come to me within that 2 to 3 months before the exam, because the margin of error is long. We can figure out some things. We're not wasting every single week, because every week really matters. And a lot of times we got that time pressure, and we got the exam was in 1 month, the exam was in 2 months. We start hopping around topics without structure. You'll burn through your calendar suddenly, and you realize, oh my gosh, test day is here, and you still don't feel confident because the time pressure has come in, and you realize I have not took time with different things. And to say the time just snuck up on you. But here's the thing, of all the things we've been talking about, I really want you to take away with a structure that builds confidence in your brain to perform when it's knows what's next. I want your brain performance the best when it knows what's next. And structure doesn't make you rigid, it makes you free. A lot of times we don't want structure, but it's the very thing that makes us free. Case in point, when we constantly, like for me, I have transitioned to a new role in my career, and I have to adjust to where at first I thought that working out in the evenings was best for me, but honestly it's becoming a hindrance for me, because I only have so much time after the day, once I get off before I go to sleep. So if I'm making it home by 6 o'clock, and I want to be in the bed by 9:30 to get back up at 5, that's a lot, right? Sometimes it's the mastering of the time. So what I've learned is when I actually work out in the morning, it's actually better for me. So in the evening, I know what I can go in and do. Those things that makes sense for me. And your brain needs structure as well. your studying needs structure, because with structure you can really measure your progress instead of guessing. Because Dr. Patel's anxiety dropped the moment he saw his 60-day roadmap. Every day he could check off a step because he knew how he was moving forward. And that's the power of a study plan. So let's talk about, I want to make sure I leave you today with how to build a bold study plan. Because many of you don't have access to a coach like me who goes beyond passing this exam. We focus on a career. Even in our Naplex intensive, we had yesterday with our Naplex intensive, my client saw that this is beyond passing the Naplex. There was even one particular case. I literally said, this is the things we see as pharmacists. Because you have to understand, doctors, nurses, and any other profession, they only had 1 to 2 semesters of pharmacology. We know for years we are the drug experts, so we have to make sure we can identify what they get wrong, because they don't get it all right too. And that's one of the things, like, you have to understand that. But let me stay on topic, because I want to make sure I give you these points of how to build a bold study plan. Whether it's 1 month, 2 months, 2 weeks, in a sense, with 2 weeks, baby, that's a whole nother play I got. But definitely 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 weeks, all that stuff, right? So one of the key things you want to do is you want to focus on, especially I'll say for this video purposes, let's say you have a 2 months you have 2 months before your exam. Key thing I want to tell you is to start with, if you have 2 months, start with like the core 4. Like, spend like with core 4 things. As you watch the previous video, I should link it here. Let me write down this time so I can make sure I tell you to go here and link it, right? So with this, the core 4, don't spread yourself thin. Identify, as we talked about the last video, survey what you know, what you don't know, right? So let's just survey disease states that we know I need to focus on. So let's just focus on the 4 high yield areas, which we know infectious diseases, because you say, oh, I didn't know that. Go ahead and put oncology on there. Go ahead and put cardiovascular in there. And you can pick whatever other one, whether that be diabetes, psychiatric, whatever. But pick 4 and anchor yourself there. So you said, for the first month, I'm going to focus on these topics. And focus on those topics the first month. That's disease states. I always still practice math, but those like the 4 core disease states, right? And then you start layering. You start layering your review. Now, my clients, they do have the score method in the Naplex playbook for the review. So they get to see what they know that they need to focus on. But for you, most of the time I see with pharmacists, they wait to the end to review. No, we're not gonna wait to the end to review. We're going to review. Constantly revisit those topics we covered. Like, if you cover a section of infectious disease, don't just start with another one. Review it. At least, at bare minimum, you should revisit old topics weekly, so your brain can keep the connections alive. At least weekly. Review old topics. Third thing you want to do is you want to make sure you do active recalling. We're not just study reading, always being passive. You want to make sure that you quiz yourself daily. And quizzing yourself does not mean going to a test bank. Quizzing yourself is you can quiz yourself and know. You know if you quiz yourself, you know if you know something or not. And you can say XYZ acronyms like ... You know that. Quiz yourself. Teach the material out loud. Go teach it to a family member. Even if they don't, go teach it to them. You gotta actively learn. Other thing you want to do is you want to block time, not the topics. Instead of saying that I will finish the entire ID chapter, this ID chapter, today. Let's say I will work on ID for these 2 focus hours. Because this shifts the pressure from finishing content to making consistent progress. When I was working on that Naplex playbook, I had an outline of what I was going to do, and I said, okay, I got these I have 90 minutes to get to work on this playbook today. I have 2 hours to work on this playbook today. And I focus on the time, not the actual get this done by this. Because I want to psych myself out. Because when you say, today I'm going to conquer this chapter today, you will spend the entire day learning that one chapter. And that one chapter, you probably look at is, you probably can get that chapter done in 4 hours. Or maybe 2 or even 1. But when you say, I'm going to study this chapter for today, that's all day. And you stop, you start, you go play with somebody. Like, I don't know, go play with your child. You go run an errand. You do stuff because you don't have, like, you're not focused. It's not a focused time. And the last thing is something so small. But when it comes to building your study plan, you got to measure your wins, not necessarily the hours. Because track what you really mastered. And that's why for us in the Naplex Play program, you get this amazing book, the Naplex Playbook, over right there. You get the amazing book, Naplex Playbook. Because you can see your wins. That score method is a visual win calendar for you. Every day you have a checklist to meet. That's a win category for you. Every day you have trackers built in each day. That is a win for you. You have a tracker built in each week. That is a win for you. Because you want to measure track what you mastered. Not just how long you sat at a desk and you started crossing off milestones. That's what we got to do. That's what builds the momentum. So as a repeat, you building your plan, making sure your plan has these things. I was gonna I'll recap. My recap. You want to start with the core. Survey what you don't know. Start there. You want to layer in your review. You got to review, because what you don't review, what you don't review, you're not going to perform and remember well. You need to use active recall. Test yourself. Don't stop allowing a test bank to test you. Test yourself. I'm very passionate about that one, okay? Block time instead of the topics. You have to block time. Be focused hours consistent. And start measuring your wins, not the hours. Here's my question to you. Are you studying circles? Or are you studying with structure? You have 2 months. One dream. The Naplex does not require you to be perfect. It doesn't require perfection. It requires direction. And if you're ready to stop guessing and finally have a plan that works, this is your moment. Book a strategy call with me today. we will map out. I'll say, book a Naplex strategy call with me. And we're going to map out together not only a plan like we did with Dr. Patel, where you'll get a real time, I'll say, auto correction as you work that study plan as well. Because I know you want to walk into the test and feel ready to pass. Everybody does. The link will be provided below in the description. Don't wait. Let's not wait. Because your future as a pharmacist depends on the decisions you make in the next 60 days. Especially you're about to test in the next month of you for the test. Your decisions really matter. So, let's have a conversation. You can book a strategy call if you want here. And I'm even going to give you guys an even another solid. I'm going to link below a course, a productivity course, and I'm going to give you a discount rate as well. Okay? But until next time, remember that pharmacy is only if you are. Now go be great, and I will talk to you guys later.